Hello guys and girls, MMA community and my YouTube fans and everybody else in the house. We're going to come at you today with the segment of the week, combining a few different ones that we didn't have enough time to put into separate videos. As I said, I'm still transitioning from doing this part-time to full-time little by little, and I want to thank most importantly my Patreon members who are allowing me to start doing this little by little, more and more. And sometimes it may not seem like I'm doing it more full time because I'm not coming out as much content technically or as much video time as I started or as you guys would like to see, considering your contributions. But what that time is actually going more towards that you may not be able to see, but you'll start to notice it when you're financially being compensated for it with the accuracy and the knowledge and the quality as opposed to the quantity, because I'm the type that always believes that quality will always beat quantity. I'd rather do something better for a shorter time than do it not as well for a longer time. So the time that I'm using now is more invested in researching and watching tapes and studying and watching interviews and talking to people and stuff like that. So your time, your contribution, I mean, is being used with my time, not just for videos. So just so you have that in mind while we're watching today's segment, okay? All right, so today's segment, we're going to talk about a couple of different things. I want to talk to you guys about the segment that I didn't get a chance to make, but I decided that it's going to be the best to make it after the weigh-in. So this is a 2-in-1. It's going to be a post weigh-in and post face-off video, and it's going to be also the fade of the week video and prop bets, over unders, and all of the type of different stuff that's going to confirm our initial predictions, or it's either going to reconfirm our prediction from the previous videos, or it's going to tell us that based off what I've discovered and what I've learned from since then and what I've seen after the weigh-in and face-offs, which can make a huge difference, especially with somebody like me who has experience with seeing face-offs for so long, not just as a fan and just researching, but from the fighting aspect of behind it. And I've done weight cuts, so I know what I'm looking for precisely. Anyways, so that'll sometimes make a difference in who we're going to go with. And in this week, it actually has made a difference, slightly. Anyways, let's get started with the fade of the week, which is also going to be one I want to do always after the weigh-ins and face-offs, because I'll be able to get to see the person who I wanted to fade right before they're about to go into the octagon and perform, which is going to make me confirm that judgment and decision as well. So it's more of an accurate, because when I told you guys the fade of the week, it's somebody who I told you can always lay some chalk against. And in the last video, I gave you 2 fades of the week. Both of them got knocked out that night. So you could have put a lot of money on it like I told you to, or I recommended you to. And if you did so, you would have made a killing, because the odds were real nice, especially for the Uriah Hall and Anderson Silva. Nobody would ever think about making somebody who people call the greatest of all time. I turned him into the fade of the week, which is somebody you would do for the worst of all time. Not that I'm not an admirer, I was a fan of, but he just waited too long to retire, and he turned into the fade of the week, unfortunately. And that's why you guys seen him get knocked out with just a couple of punches. So that's one of them that cashed in, and Uriah Hall was one of the smallest favorites, paying the best out of all the favorites of that night. So if you guys listened to me and cashed in on that fade of the week, you'd be very well compensated for that judgment or for that segment. Okay, let's get started with this week. This week, my fade of the week is gonna be the opponent of somebody who will actually be somebody I wanted to also talk about at the post weigh-in recap. Is somebody I was impressed with seeing. I did hear rumors and other people that I've talked to that are closer to this person that this guy's been working his butt off. He's been working on his cardio. He knows what improvements he needs to make to get to the next level where he needs to be a contender eventually and work his way up in the rankings. So Mr. Mays, Tom Mays, how do you say his name? Hold on 1 second. Well, anyways, Mays is going against How do you, give me 1 second here, guys. Roque Martinez, I think. I'm just pulling it up. Sorry about that. All right, yeah, I think you say his name. I don't want to mess up anybody's name because you guys are going to use these for the bets. Okay, Dontel Mays, and he's going against Roque Martinez. Roque Martinez is my fade of the week, and he did not look good at the weigh-ins or skill. Here's what I noticed about the face-offs. Okay, weigh-ins, I noticed he's a mess. This guy looks like he has not got off of his couch for the last 25 years, or since at least the time when Krokop, who was on his second to last fight before he retired. Old man Krokop, in his worst stages of his career, got a first round finish against Roque Martinez. At that age, and Roque Martinez was close to his size, they were evenly sized up to Krokop. I don't know if you guys paid attention to this, but Dontel Mays towered over this guy. It was not even a somewhat close of a size. The discrepancy between the height, the physique, and Dontel Mays, as I was trying to finish saying, I got sidetracked. He's coming in at his best. His cardio is going to be the best. His physique is the best. I mean, he's not the most, nicely built guy and best physique, but if you compare how he looks now to what he used to look like, you can tell he's been putting some work in. And that means his cardio will be better, and a lot of things will be showing signs of improvement as well. He's been putting time at the gym, which means he's been improving his level of skill as well. So I expect to see him at his best. And even when he wasn't at his best, he should have been able to put away a guy like Roque Martinez, who has just not been impressive at all in his career. He's a gimme. I think this is going to be just a gimme fight for him, and it's somebody we can always fade unless he's. I can't imagine, like the last time we seen Roque Martinez, he got put away in the first round by another guy with a similar name. His name was King Kong, so I guess it's omen for him. And he's going against the second guy with a similar nickname who's going to end up putting away pretty quickly, I would imagine. So that's another one I would probably look, even though he is sturdy, he has been in 2 fights that I did tapes on him on. I seen him get finished in the first round. So I wouldn't be surprised if this went under the 2.5 mark. So we got to look into see how those odds are paying. But this card is such a beautiful card when it comes to odds that there's no need to get crazy with parlays. There's no need to get crazy with prop bets. If we just bet straight money line bets, now this is the benefit of being in my Patreon. I don't want to spend too much time on this video discussing how to make money on this card, but for my Patreon members, they'll be told and advised, and I'll be recommending to them exactly how to make the most money, the safest way, taking the least amount of risks. Some of them not even risks, there's just benefits, rewards. So this is going to be our most beneficial as a Patreon member. This will be your best week, mark my words. I don't think I'll ever be able to give you a week that's going to be this much beneficial to you guys financially as we'll always have. We've never had a losing week, we've never had a bad week. But this will probably be our best week of all time ever, because there's no favorites that are paying too bad. Like the biggest favorite here, especially after Julian Marquez fell off the card, they're like minus 200s, and the majority of our favorites that we're going with are only in the minus 100s. So you're getting a good bang for your buck, especially when we're doing 2 or 3 leg parlays like we're doing, and this is the channel. Remember, if you looked at my Twitter, I've cashed in back to back weeks, 9 leg parlays, 12 leg parlays, 11. So you give me a 2 or 3 leg parlay, I'll do it with my eyes closed. No problem. And 2 or 3 leg parlays on odds like these, they're paying 5 to 1, 6 to 1. You bet 100, you get 600 back. And we're going to have 20 and 30 of those lined up for us. So a small amount of money, tiny to little to no risk at all, unless one of our guys falls on a banana and trips. We're going to cash in these 2 3 leg parlays. So there's a system behind it. There's logic behind who's in it. Not just the fighting picks have a system behind it, but the betting system has a different, completely separate type of thinking that had to be required to be put into making that logic, or making that system work beautifully as well. So you got somebody who's going to be giving you the best advice like a professional bettor would, and also somebody who's going to be giving you the best advice as a professional MMA fan. And fighter himself. So you got the best of both worlds. Somebody who's practiced by trial and error for over a year before he came on YouTube and perfected it and mastered it so he can use it to help others. Because I did a lot of trial and error before I made it to this point where I'm not going to make any mistakes, and that's why we've never had a bad week. Anyways, back to the fight card. Here's the only difference that I've made in decisions as far as who we're going to pick and who we're going to put money on this week. This is a fight that I don't want to put money on. I was intending on ignoring it. There's only 2 fights that I was not going to put in any of our parlays, and because it was such a sweet card with such sweet odds and good numbers, for the first time ever, I was going to tell you, let's not even bet on 2 of the fights. 2 of the fights, here's the advantage that we have over the casino. It's like the concept for blackjack when the casino has to hit on 17, but we don't. A hard or soft 7, they got to hit no matter what, and they got to play. We don't have to play every. That's the one advantage that we have. The biggest advantage, one of the biggest advantages we have over the casinos and the bookies. We don't have to bet on every fight. If we don't like something, or something's not smelling right, or doesn't look right, or is too big of a risk, we just gotta let it go. And that's what we're gonna do on the Felder and RDA fight. RDA, also somebody who's coming down from a weight class, who's not used to cutting this much weight. Felder being a guy who's last minute replacement. I don't care even if he does triathletes and he's a triathlete and whatnot. He does cardio all year round. He looked like a mess. And I know what's going to happen. Even though just because you could do it, just because you could do something, doesn't make it a good idea. I could drive a car with my feet and I'll get from point A to point B. Does it make it a good idea though? Is it a smart thing to do? No. Am I going to be a better driver than the guy using 2 hands? Absolutely not. But I could do it, right? Anybody can, as long as you got feet. So anyways, so we're not going to be that guy driving with a foot, and we're going to let this one pass. Or what we could do is fade the guy who looked like the bigger mess. And RDA didn't look too bad, to be quite frank. He looked focused. Here's the thing about weight cutting that many won't know. It's not just about how you look. He did look flush. He did look dehydrated, sucked out. But focus-wise, this guy's reflexes and his fight IQ is not going to be up to par. It's not going to be where he usually is. He's not going to be capable of making last minute. In a fight, it's very important that you got to think on your feet. Literally, you got to be thinking on your feet. So you got to make calls that can make the difference of if you're going to get knocked the heck out and slept, or you're going to be the guy who can sleep the other guy. You're going to have very quick, small, short windows of opportunity that you got to be able to be smart and use almost like reflexes, but they're not really reflexes because it's not like you're closing your eyes and doing it. You have to think about it, but think about it fast and act on it. And when you've cut this much weight, when you've done this to your brain doesn't work as well. That's why they tell you before you go to school, when you're taking a big test, you got to eat a good breakfast. You got to come in full and sleeping well. This guy hasn't slept well, hasn't ate well, hasn't drank well. His brain's not going to be working well. So besides the physical disadvantages he's coming in with, his mental, which is most important in a fight, is not going to be to where it should be. So we could fade this guy now. As much as I like the guy, and I've seen him do well in most of his fights, even though he's coming off of a loss, I'm going to fade him tonight. And we're going to take advantage of every disadvantage we find in a fighter. So Roque Martinez, fading him all day long, every single 7 times a week and 2 times on a Saturday every time he fights on a UFC card. So we're fading Roque Martinez. We're fading, unfortunately, my man Felder, Paul Felder. All right, let's see. What else do I have for you guys? All right, here's what I noticed about the Chaos Abdul Razak. They both came in looking like giants, like guys who were from the Spartan days. Like these guys were injected with steroids since they came out of the womb. These guys are jacked up. And Chaos looking the best he's ever looked. Abdul looking the best he's ever looked. These guys are powerhouses. But here's what I did notice. As a fighter, I noticed that what I predicted earlier in the week is going to come to fruition. That guy, Chaos Williams, who's not going to be the more skilled fighter, not going to be the better all-around fighter, he's not going to have the more power, is going to also come in as confident as he always does, which is how he got the knockout win over another guy who's on this card, Alex Moreno. The way he got the win is he comes in crazy strong. He comes in fast and ready to throw strikes, trade strikes in the middle of the octagon. He's not going to be afraid of Abdul, even though this guy, he knows, has 10 knockouts all in the first round. So he's got 10 finishes, all being first round knockouts. That when you're a fighter, you don't have the same feel. Like we're thinking if we seen some guy who had 10 knockouts all in the first round and we have to go against this guy, we're thinking as normal people like, oh, I'm going to be worried about this guy's punching power and I'm going to be worried, I'm going to try to take him down. Chaos is not thinking. He didn't get his nickname Chaos because he's scared and he's worried, and he's Chaos because he does chaotic things, and he's going to go and trade with the guy who everybody would tell him don't dare trade with. And that's what gets people the finishes. That's why guys like here, for example, Beneil Dariush, if you guys remember his last fight, Scott Holtzman is known to be a knockout artist. Beneil's a grappler, submission type of guy. They all said you got to take him down. Beneil Dariush knocked him out with a spinning elbow in the first round because he's a fighter before anything. He's not going to listen to strategy. What got you to the show in the first place? What made you want to start your career as a fighter? First day you stepped into the gym before you had a career as a professional. That guy that brought you into stepping into the gym that day is the guy you need to also bring with you inside the ring. If you don't have that guy in the ring with you, that guy who knows how to not back down from a challenge, who rises to the challenge, who's not afraid, who has got confidence, which is important in anything you do in the world. I don't care if you're an employee at blah, blah, blah company or you're a fighter, you need confidence. And Chaos is going to come with the confidence that's probably going to be the either the thing that's going to make him or break him, because that's going to be what's, like I told you guys earlier in the week, is going to make him fall right into the hands of and play right into the hands of his opponent Abdul, who's a knockout artist in his own right. So I can see this going down really quick. It's going to finish early. If it doesn't finish early, I did tell you guys to possibly consider hedging off of Abdul and switching over to the other guy after the first round. And you could do a live bet, and it'll probably be better for you because the numbers will be so much swayed on the other direction that he'll come in as even a bigger underdog. And when he does win, because the other guy is not known to have the best cardio, as you guys have seen if you've studied his tapes, he doesn't have the best cardio. He does fade away, and that's how he's lost. His only matches that he's lost has been because he fades away. So, and the other guy doesn't seem to have that problem because he doesn't explode. He doesn't try to get people out in the first round in every fight. He does pace himself a little bit better, and so therefore we could hedge off. That's the only fight I would ever consider in this card hedging off of, and I told you that early in the week, so I hope you didn't put him in too many parlays. All right, so the second guy, the third fight we're going to talk about is Julian Marquez was one of our excellent. We were gonna fade Safarov because the guy's got 3 losses. But we don't have to even talk about this fight. It's been canceled, and I don't blame him. Julian was like the Kamzat of this card. The guy's got like most of his fights are all by finish. He put away Phil Dawes impressively, a highlight reel kick. This guy's called the Cuban Missile Crisis for a reason. And anytime he fights, you want to pay attention to this guy's fights and put some money on that guy, unless he's fighting a killer and somebody who's not, you know, who's not like somebody who's like top 10, top 15, somebody who's in like the top 5 or top 10 maybe, but top 5. Unless you're in the top 5, I don't see anybody being able to put away Julian Marquez. Julian Marquez is a beast. All right, but unfortunately, we don't get to see that fight, so we won't talk about it. Kay Hanson versus Corey McKenna. Kay Hanson, an excellent parlay piece in my opinion, because not just Corey McKenna is levels and years behind her in every aspect of the game, but just the size different, the confidence level, the skill level, every way possible. I know she made a transition to alpha male training with Uriah Faber, Cody Garbrandt, and some other notable fighters, but she's just nowhere near this woman's, Kay Hanson's level. Kay Hanson's young and hungry. She's motivated like never before, and she's also made some improvements from her last fight, and she's rapidly improving her skill level at even a faster rate from what I've seen. So a great parlay piece in my opinion would be, we're definitely sticking with our, especially after seeing the face-offs and just everything from the demeanor to the sizes differences. Kay Hanson's going to take this one for sure. I have no doubt about it. Eric Anders versus Antonio Arroyo. Eric Anders is somebody who has not been looking impressive, seems to be on the decline, but I can tell you from what I've learned about his camp, his training camp for this fight, he's never put in as much hours, never put in as much work. He's never been so motivated. He knows how important this is. He knows how much of a threat Arroyo is for his, style. He's gone against people like this in the past, like Khalil Roundtree and Machida, so he knows that he has usually trouble with people that fight in that type of a karate stance and who are wide and who have this guy's type of stance, and he's bigger as well, so he's always had trouble with this guy's type of style matchups. And so he knows not only that this is one of those important fights that he cannot afford to lose after looking so unimpressive and losing so many of his fights recently, but he knows that the matchup he's got to be ready for, because these are the people who have shown the biggest holes in his game, who have exposed his holes and have made him look like not the caliber type of a fighter that we would like to see in the UFC. So he's got a lot riding on this. He knows it. He's going to be coming in at his best. So this is going to be a good fight one way or another, but I still kind of give the slight edge to the bigger, stronger looking, younger, hungrier, and just a little bit of a more skilled and more impressively improving fighter who's coming with the momentum that he needs for a fight like this, especially knowing how much this can improve him in the rankings and whatnot. So I got a slight edge on the underdog, and when you're paying me underdog money on somebody who I think has a slight advantage, especially, or just a near fight, or anytime it's going to be a close fight, I like to put my money on the plus side, and this is an underdog that I would love to cash in on. So we're going to give him our first shot of the underdog. He's the first underdog of the day I'm picking. And the next fight we're gonna go, he did look awesome at the weigh-ins, but so did Anders. He didn't look better than him, but Anders looked like I had heard and saw. He looks like the better version of his previous self. So Brandon Allen, Sean Strickland, one of the most exciting fights of the night. Everybody is going to be geeked to want to watch this one. A lot of people are high on Allen. A lot of people know what type of a fighter and caliber level of striking and fighting you're going to get from Sean Strickland, who's been in there with the best. He's done 3 rounds, went all 3 rounds with the champ Usman, who was having trouble with the takedowns and holding him down. So he has grappled and wrestled with the best, even better level wrestlers than Allen, because Allen's a great submission artist. Don't get me wrong, he does have a threat on the ground. He has put away some impressive people. The Kevin Holland submission, which he was losing that fight until, but Kevin Holland is known, just like in the Darren Stewart fight and some other fights before that, to fade away and start to show bad IQ. When he does start fading away, he starts showing his holes in his game with not having the best IQ, not listening to his trainers, and just doing reckless stuff that costs him positioning. And he goes from having like a 10-8 round to losing by a 10-8 round. So it's just not somebody you can trust very much, and that's why he blew that fight. But Strickland is not that type of a person, man. He's quite opposite, actually. If you noticed, a lot of people are fading him this time because of his last fight. He didn't look so impressive against a guy who isn't impressive as well, but Strickland does like to, he's not the type that cares about fans and followers and his name value or sponsors or rankings. This guy just goes out there to fight and cash some paychecks, and he's got a job and he wants to do it and leave. That's it. So he doesn't care about the fans and about the highlight reels. So what he was doing in his fight is just winning as much. He did enough. He paced himself. He didn't want to burn himself. So it's actually smart. He doesn't get the most fans in the way he fights, but he wins fights. He knows how to win fights. He knows how not to put himself in danger. But if you do remember something about, and this is this is a thanks to not having the audience that usually would be very loud, and we wouldn't be able to pick up on this stuff. But when we were fighting with this post-pandemic stage, with no fans and stuff, when they're fighting in an octagon where you can hear even them breathing, you were able to hear what. Did you guys notice what Strickland was saying to Jack Marshman at the end of the 3rd round when he was up all 3 rounds? He was gonna close out the fight 30-27, maybe even 30-26 if a judge given him a 10-8 round, because he did dominate the entire 3 rounds, not even get in any position for a second of the fight where he showed any vulnerability, any holes in his game, and he just wasn't overly impressive. But he didn't have any moments of where he was in trouble or he got hurt or almost put away. Nothing like that. He dominated the entire fight from pillar to post from bell to bell. He took over that fight. He landed more, he landed better and everything. But at the end of the fight, did you hear what he said? This is that guy who, when I learned about Strickland, when I heard about how he was getting into fights at gas stations, he rides motorcycles. I got my battle. I got 16 stitches, 11 staples, a cracked skull, a torn ACL, a torn LCL. I was in a coma. I've rode motorcycles since I was a kid. I rode my first motorcycle before I rode my first car. I had my first motorcycle at 16. I was in a motorcycle club, outlaws group, so I know the mentality of a biker. This guy's a biker, like a Donald Cerrone type of athlete. When you push him to the level of, you back him into a corner, you bring out the level, because like I say, he fights to the level of his opponents. If you bring that out of him, he will show you what he's capable of doing. And at the end of the third round at the Jack Marshman, just go to the end of the round. He told Marshman with a few seconds, couple of minutes, wasn't only a few seconds, like a minute left, he told Marshman, come on, I'm going to give you a chance to win this fight. He told him, I'm going to give you a chance to win this fight because you can only do it by knocking me out. He put his hands on, he traded with them in the middle of the octagon. Everybody else would have ran away, avoided the fight, maybe tried to take it to the ground, or just been defensive, not so offensive. He even told the guy, come on, I'm going to give you a chance to win the fight, try to knock me out. And he took a few, it was the only time he got into some bit of a trouble because he took a few punches, but did you see the way he acted after that? His head movement, his footwork, he became more dangerous. He started hitting the guy in ways he wasn't touching him in the entire 2.5 rounds before that. So we know he could do more than he showed. Don't judge him off that performance. He's the kind of guy that will push the pace if he needs to, and Allen's not going to have a field day with him. If Usman, who's a bigger, stronger, better wrestler than Allen, couldn't take him down, hold him down, this guy's not going to be able to do that either. And the way he's going to be moving, he's not going to be stationary. He's going to be able to use the reach, the jab. He's looking bigger and stronger than he did even in the Usman fight. He's gained some muscle mass, I've noticed. He's looking like a more improved fighter. But because they're motorcycle accident, they're counting him out, like they think that he's not in a good mental space right now or whatever it is. They made him the underdog, believe it or not. This guy's put away the same people that Allen's put away, but even more. He's got a longer resume, better resume, and more experience and better striking. And I don't know. I just don't know why he's the underdog. I mean, I understand why the casual fans might think that, and some of the other guys with their podcasts are counting him out as well because they're not as experienced and had not been following the sport as long as, you know, guys like me and stuff like that. But I was surprised to see the odd makers got this wrong. The odd makers put Strickland as an underdog, so I'm taking advantage of that. And like I said, anytime there's going to be a close fight, I want my money on the plus side. We got Strickland in this fight. Next fight, he did look good at the weigh-ins, even better than Allen as far as size and physicality-wise. Ashley Yoder, Miranda Granger. I got Miranda Granger here. She's looked better at the weigh-ins, the scales, the face-offs. She's just more improving more and more, while Yoder's looking like she's going on the decline instead. Yoder doesn't seem to be confident as much as Granger either, which, like I told you earlier in the video, confidence plays a big role. So I don't want to spend too much time on these. We're just going to recap, okay? Miranda Granger and okay, next fight is Alex Morano, Reese McKee. I wanted to touch on, a lot of people are saying, oh, we got to give credit to Reese McKee. I heard somebody in their podcast saying something like, Reese McKee was so honored, you know, we got to give him respect because he took the Khamzat fight as his first fight, and that means, you know, he's a soldier, whatever he was saying about him, trying to praise him for it. But that's not true. I watch, like I said, I don't miss it. This is my living. I do this for a living. I'm responsible for people's money, so I got to do my due diligence and do the research. I'll tell you what happened with that fight. Reese McKee had a phone call from his father, who's like his manager, his trainer, and also his manager. His father on video call while Reese McKee was driving in his car. He parked his car, actually. I got a memory like an ox. I'll never forget nothing. So he was driving in his car. He parked his car. His father called him, said, hey, guess what, son? Are you pulled over? Because I got some news that you're going to be freaking out about it. I don't want you to drive while you're doing this. And he was in the car. He's like, we got into the UFC. He bawled, he cried. Reese McKee started crying. Tears came down his eyes. He said, are you kidding me? You're lying to me. Aren't you lying to me, right? You're lying to me? His dad said, no, man, we got you in the UFC. He's like, oh, great. Who are we fighting? He said, oh, Khamzat, some guy Khamzat. He's like, who's Khamzat? This was when Khamzat was not well known. He didn't have that, hype train behind him yet. Not many people knew about him. So Reese McKee was like, he even said those exact words, I won't forget. Whoever it is, I don't give a crap. let's get it, let's go. Later on, I'm sure he probably regretted those words, but it was too late. The contract was signed. He was excited about getting into the UFC. It was his first chance of making himself a contract to get into the UFC, or he was waiting to get into. And I've seen his fights before. He never really impressed me. He's got bad takedown defense. His takedown defense is very, very low level. Alex Moreno is not known to be somebody who uses his wrestling, but if he has to, he is a great wrestler, and he could dominate this on the ground. And I even see him getting the better in exchanges with his experience and level of competition, especially. I mean, if you think about it, this guy, Reese McGee, has had one fight already only in the UFC. You know how many strikes landed he's got? 0. So, you know, that says all we need to know about the guy. Even, what's that guy's name that lost against Park, the Asian guy who beat Khamzat's record for the 3 rounds? We cashed in on that over, by the way. Everybody thought that I had 3-1 odds on that prop bet. I bet the over on that Park to fight that guy Phillips, who was the the victim after Reese McKee of Khamzat, where Khamzat finished him in the 2nd round. He's the only fighter that gave Khamzat strikes in the UFC. Every fight besides that fight, Khamzat was victorious without taking a single punch. Well, the guy who did give Khamzat a few punches, nothing serious, nothing significant, just was able to land some like insignificant strikes while he was getting pounded away. And that same guy who I knew was, if Khamzat had trouble getting him put away, the referee, he didn't tap or get knocked out. The referee had to stop Khamzat and get him off of him because of the no answers to the ground and pound. He wasn't defending himself or answering back, so he had to stop the fight. But with a guy like Young Park, whatever the guy's name was, the Asian guy who beat the record by far of anybody strikes in 3-round and 5-round fight for ground strikes, that guy we cashed in on over 2.5 rounds by him winning 3-1. So you guys can see that ticket. I posted it before the fights and after the fights on my Twitter at Fighting Guru with 1G in the middle. Anyways, okay, so we got Alex Moreno on that fight. We've got Strickland, we got Granger, Moreno, Louis Smoka. I have him beating Quinones. Louis Smoka's a bit of a gamble, man. We don't know which guy is going to show up. He's been very, very impressive in a lot of his fights, but then he's dealing with some demons. He's had some drug abuse, substance abuse problems in the past. So if he's over that, and we know if he can just fight to the half of his abilities, because the guy's an excellent all-around fighter, man. He's like a lesser technical, lesser experienced version of that Barcelos guy who fought against the Lebanese guy on last week's card. He's very gritty. He's like a dog in there, man. He doesn't back down. He's very good in the scrambles, reversals, ground and pound, flying knees. His wrestling is good, his striking is good, his movement, his head movement, his feet work, everything is great, man. This guy's an awesome fighter. If his mind, his mental is there, and he looked good, he looked fine, he was very focused, and his physical was fine. I didn't notice anything wrong with him, so my money's on this guy until I see any other reasons why not. All right, and Tony Gravely versus Geraldo de Freitas. Freitas will play right into the style. Matchup is perfect for Tony Gravely here. It's just going to be the perfect type of matchup he needs in order to look good. I've seen Tony Gravely in one of his most recent fights in the middle of an armbar attempt by his opponent, a game opponent. He picked up his opponent with one arm, slammed him on the ground. The guy was doing an armbar. With that arm, picked him up, slammed him on the ground. 30 seconds, 36 seconds within the, I told you this memory is like an ox. 36 seconds in the first round, he knocked out his opponent who was in the middle of a submission by using just one of his arms to pick him up in the air and slam him down. That's some freakish strength. And this is all natural. USADA tests this guy and he's not even dirty. He's not a Bellator fighter using that type of a strength. So this guy's been wrestling since he was a kid. He's strong. He's good. He's going to have the advantage on the ground. Besides the submissions and the jiu-jitsu, which usually I would always favor the wrestler over the jiu-jitsu specialist. So in this situation, I've already seen him against jiu-jitsu specialists. As I said, He was able to knock one of them out in the middle of their submission attempt. I don't see there being any reason why he can't do the same with this guy, who's a smaller guy than the guy he knocked out, by the way. Anyway, so Tony Gravely, a great pick right there as well, paying good money, good value on that straight bet, and maybe put him in a couple of parlays if you'd like as well. But again, I don't talk about this to anybody besides my patrons. If you're my patron, you're gonna make a killing this week. You guys know already what we're doing. All right, Dontel Mays, Roque Martinez. You already know that one of the biggest mismatches in sizes of the night. This is going to be a total domination. Dontel Mays is going to annihilate him. If Crow Cop at his end of his career could do it, and King Kong, what's his name, that finished him in the first round as well before this fight. They're both coming off losses, by the way, so they're both going to be working their hardest to train. They're both getting opponents that are less dangerous than their previous opponent, but as far as who has made the most improvements from my research, Dontel Mays has made the most improvements. It was always from the beginning the better striker, better fighter, and better physical shape. Also way better size advantage. So no reason why this guy shouldn't be a great parlay piece. All right, guys, thank you for your time. Any questions, put them in the comments. Become a patron, open the lines of communication, get my personal own bet slips, and we'll make a killing together. You can be an OG member of my Patreon. See you on the next video.